Let me take you here. Let me show you the horror on the streets of Philadelphia. Cut 5. Now, I lived in Philadelphia. It was always not the best. But this is
less suboptimal?
Less suboptimal. I mean, these people are zombies.
Yeah.
They're just all drugged out, laying in the streets or stooped over, all in Philadelphia. Now, let me show you something else. This is in Oakland.
Oh, my gosh.
This is people coming and speaking. This happened this week in Oakland, California. Not exactly a red part of California.
It's not MAGA land?
No, it's not MAGA land.
Territory?
So these are the Oakland residents that are coming to Oakland to demand a change from the city. Listen to this.
I'm Louise. I'm the owner of Studio Naga.
I'm Louis, owner of Studio Naga.
I email you in your office every week. I email homeless. I email macro. I email everyone. And you know the situation. I have a person who's mentally deranged, who's living 10 feet from the door of my business, who has threatened me multiple times, who has threatened other people, who defecates on our property, on our business. And I'm being told by macro that they can't do anything. I'm being told by the police that there's got to be something in the middle. Because as women have said, I don't want to have to get threatened with sexual violence when I go to work. I don't want my children to see this as a normal behavior from an individual on the street, that they get. He's been naked, he's masturbated in front of them, he's urinated in front of them. And there's nothing I'm told the police can do.
Okay.
So your policy of not enforcing some of this 150 feet from a school, 50 feet from a residence or business, that policy has a direct effect on people's lives.
Okay, now listen to that. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Why are you paying taxes? What am I paying taxes for? Okay, listen to this. Crime change, cut 2, number 7.
I understand it comes from a place of hurt. Generally, when people are being violent, on some level, in some form, it's coming from a place of hurt. Sure. But if they're doing hundreds of gunpoint robberies, mostly to women, to people of all races, where I have lived in poverty my whole life, it makes it hard for us to keep jobs, to find jobs, to live life, to fight through mental health issues, to fight through our poverty. And it's not just one demographic of women, it's all kinds of women being targeted. This is systemic violence as well.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to leave you with. When you start to have conversations, because all of the data points are there. Before, when they were like, we're going to reimagine the police, we're like, that's not going to work. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Okay. And that obviously, wasn't necessarily the best thing to say, but that's what was out of our mouths. I know it was my mouth at the time. Are you out of your mind? Now all the data points are there. You show things like this and say, so let's talk about defunding the police and saying that the homeless, can live anywhere they want and all of this. How's that working out for you? Just ask them that. How's that working out? Can we just look at the facts? How's the city doing? How's crime? How's crime compared from a red city to a blue city? Is there anything we can learn from this? How's it working out? And just be kind about it. But it's time we just start talking about facts. This is empirical evidence. This is how science is done. I don't follow scientists because I know scientists can be wrong. I follow actual science, and that is, I have a theory. I'm going to now test it out, and I'm going to look at the facts. So when they say, you just don't even know, you're a racist. No, I'm following science. Here's how it works. You propose a theory. I think police are making our cities racist, and we would be safer in the minority communities if there weren't any police. Okay? You said defund because you want to reimagine. Now, we've done that in several cities. So let's look at those cities, because if it was working and it was better, I'd be with you. I'd change my mind. I don't want to be right. I want to live in a great country that treats everybody fairly, that looks at everyone equally, looks at people who are sick and says, they're sick. How can we help them? I don't want to live in crime, and neither do you. So how's that working out? That's science.
We did a show on Stu Does America called Stu Does the Collapse of the American City. It's a couple of weeks ago, and highlighted a place called Old Station Subs in Phoenix. Listen to this. This is there every day. 69-year-old owner who wants to opens a sub shop that's been around for a while. This is his current situation. There are hundreds of people sleeping within a few blocks of Old Station, most of them suffering from mental illness or substance abuse as they lived out their private lives with public view of the restaurant. They slept on Joe and Debbie's outdoor tables, defecated on their back porch, smoked methamphetamine in their parking lot, washed clothes in their bathroom sink, pilfered bread and gallon jars of pickles from the delivery trucks, had sex on their patio, masturbated within view of their employees, and lit fires for warmth that burned down palm trees and scared away customers. Within a half mile of the restaurant, the police have been called to an average of 8 incidents a day in 2022. There were at least 1,097 calls for emergency medical help, 573 fights or assaults, 236 incidents of trespassing, 185 fires, 140 thefts, 125 armed robberies, 13 sexual assaults, and 4 homicides. The remains of a 20 to 24-week-old fetus, 20 to 24-week-old fetus were burned and left next to a dumpster in November. 2 people were stabbed to death in their tents. 16 others were found dead from overdoses, suicides, hypothermia, or excessive heat. A group of young men in the encampment had begun selling off pieces of the public sidewalk, charging each person $20 a week for what they called lot rent and security. That had seemed ridiculous to an encampment resident until he decided not to pay, and then awoke one night to the smell of someone dousing his tent with lighter fuel. Then there was Keisha, barely out of her teens, who had skittered around the encampment like a scared cat, wary of everyone, carrying a few old dolls and crying sometimes.
Oh my God.
Joel had tried to watch out for her, offering her water and for a few minutes inside whenever she was upset. But one weekend when he wasn't around, the temperature was 115 degrees. She lay down on the curb near his gallery and died of heat exposure and dehydration. Gosh. Story after story after story of this. And this goes back to one of these court rulings where they said, of course it's okay to camp outside. That's okay. Of course it is. So this is completely devastated. And this is the story of one sandwich shop. But this is repeating itself all over the country.
You know, here's the thing. We have to understand that America is not all John Philip Sousa, marching bands, perfect military, and white picket fences. Okay? We have to just understand that. I never thought it was. I thought we were better than we are now. But I never thought it was. We've done some really bad things. I'm willing to admit that. I know at this point you are too, because we've gone through this together. We actually did soul searching. I think the vast majority of Americans have changed. The vast majority of Americans on both sides have changed. Now, we've changed because we've done soul searching and we've went, yeah, geez, we really screwed things up. Boy, you know what? The liberals were right about the companies becoming the state. I didn't think that 20 years ago. And they were right about the FBI and the spy apparatus in this country. They were right. Okay. All right. Now, why do I say that? Not because I'm forced to, but because I'm watching the evidence. Nobody convinced me of that. The evidence is overwhelming. Now, while that evidence is coming out and changing hardcore Republicans, hardcore conservatives, really pro-police, pro-military, all of the things that they've always hated, as we're changing because we see the facts, they're changing in spite of the facts and embracing the things they rejected. This is not logical. It's just not logical. And it won't endure. And the further we get down this path, I really am beginning to understand the gods of the copybook headings. With terror and slaughter return is the last line of that Rudyard Kipling poem. And I'm beginning to really understand it. It doesn't just mean war. It doesn't mean that, you're going to have somebody come in and just write everything. We're experiencing the terror and slaughter right now. We're experiencing it. How many people in this country now are living in fear that weren't living in fear 10 years ago? How many people who own a business in a town live in fear of what the police won't or will do, of what's happening outside of their streets? Anybody who says they're compassionate and they heard what Stu just read that's happening in Arizona, how do you claim compassion here? How is this compassionate? You are not helping the lowest. You're enriching the rich right now. You're not helping the millionaires. You're helping the billionaires. You're empowering them. You're destroying so many lives that are living on the streets that are in the worst shape. And how are you doing that? By disregarding every known principle. There's a difference between facts. Facts can change. Principles don't change. There's something that man has found to be true over thousands of years.